Hello and welcome back to another update. My name is Jimmy Boyd and you are watching Boyd News. I want to thank you for tuning in today. If you would be so kindly to smash that like button for me, I'd really appreciate it. It helps out with the YouTube algorithm. That way more people can see this video just like you're seeing today. And also if you want to hit that subscribe button, that way it'll notify you whenever we put out new videos here on YouTube. All right, so I appreciate you so much for stopping by today. I want to go over a economic article here for you in regards to the global economy. So, what I have up here on the screen for you today is the U.S. debt clock. If you go to usdebtclock.org, it will give you a live snapshot of how the economy is doing and how much debt we have. So, just in the last, I believe, the last week, we just crossed $34 trillion in debt in U.S. national debt for the United States, and that's crazy, guys. That's insane amount of debt. 34 trillion is just unheard of, and we're expected to go a lot higher than that. It looks like I think we're doing about like $1 trillion in debt at the current spending rate. I believe every 3 months. I could be wrong about that, but I believe it's about every 3 months we are potentially spending. So we're spending way more money in this country than we're actually taking in tax revenue. And we don't produce anything here in this country. Everything is produced in China or in some other country, no longer here. So we've got a lot of problems here in terms of our economy in the country. And I have an article here that talks about the global economy headed for its worst half decade in 30 years, the World Bank warns. So I'm going to go ahead and get into this. And let's see here. So, slowing growth enters a third year, putting development goals at risk. The global economy will slow in 2024 for the third straight year and appears headed for its weakest half decade since the early 1990s. The World Bank has said Tuesday in its latest annual forecast. While higher interest rates appear to be bringing inflation under control without the serious financial crisis or soaring unemployment that many had feared, the global economy's overall performance is lagging, said Indermit Gill, the bank's top economist. After rebounding sharply in 2021 from the depths of the pandemic, the global economy grew by 3% in 2022, dipped to 2.6% rate last year, and is expected to post a tepid 2.4% this year. The bank said in its annual Global Economic Prospects report. Those rates lagged the 3.1% average for the decade of the 2010s. The continuing slowdown all but guarantees that world leaders will fail to meet the 2030 development goals that 193 members of the United Nations, including the United States, agreed to in 2015. Governments pledged to transform the global economy by the end of this decade by setting 17 ambitious aims, including eliminating extreme poverty, cutting greenhouse gas emissions nearly in half, boosting education for the poor, and eradicating hunger. So I kind of want to comment on that a little bit on what the governments were planning to do, and they wanted to get a lot of this stuff done by 2030. So like let's talk about poverty, just that for a minute. I'm not an economist. I'm not an expert or quote unquote expert, whatever these people are considered when they talk about the economy. But here's just what I noticed with my own eyes over the last let's say three years or so. Ever since we got this new administration, I have seen with my own eyes. I've seen more poverty stricken people. You know, homelessness just in California alone. If you've been to California before, uh, the California homelessness problem has gotten way worse than it was. I actually used to live in California not too long ago, and when I lived there, it wasn't so bad, and it's 10 times worse now than it ever was before, and it's increasingly getting worse all the time. So if their goal was, for example, with poverty, was to make that better, it's actually gotten worse. So I wouldn't just say that they're not going to meet their goals. I think if anything, they're further away from some of these goals than they were before. Um, Now, of course, we had the health crisis of 2020. We had that happen. And we've had all these wars going on now too. So there's a lot of things that are taking attention and away from these goals that they wish to achieve, but at the same time, money as well. A lot of money has been reallocated towards these wars, towards Ukraine and Russia, towards now Israel. So a lot of money is being rerouted to these different locations instead of being put towards these goals that they originally wanted. So like even cutting greenhouse gas emissions. I mean we do have electric vehicles and things like that now, but it's I don't think they're anywhere even close to where they want to be. And then if they want to do things like building windmills and stuff, it's just these windmills require so much oil just to even maintain them, and they produce less money than they even make, so by saving electricity. So there's a lot of different things that are being called for, to create and have done by 2030, but I don't think any of these are going to be completed by then. But going back in terms of our economy, the economy is definitely not doing good right now. It hasn't been for a while now, for quite a few years. And that's why we had to print so much money. And we're still doing that today. We're still printing a lot of money. So our currency is going to continue to decline as we move forward. And we're only going to continue to spend more and more and more money. Of course, until the government decides they don't want to do that anymore. But I think at this point, they don't really have a choice. Um, but I did hear as well. I just wanted to give you guys an update that it looks like there's a government shutdown that's supposed to be happening soon, and it may get averted. There's uh, a bill that was put up, or a deal that was created. It was mocked up. I think it was like 1.59 trillion for the government to keep it running, to keep things open. I could be wrong about that number, but I believe it was 1.59 trillion. So it's like, just look at the amount of money that we're spending, and what's crazy to me is that we don't have money to fund our own government, but we have money for war. We have money for other borders, Ukraine's border, Israel's border. We have money for those borders, but we don't have money for our own border. And that just absolutely just blows my mind that we can't come up with money to protect our own selves over here, and produce things for ourselves, and provide shelters for the veterans, the homeless veterans, and all these different things. Like there's so much money that's getting sent all around the world to all these countries that don't have anything to do with us. That's their problem. It's what's happening over there. They need to deal with it. And then we have our own problems here, and we got to deal with our problems before we can help anybody else out. So it just really does blow my mind when I think about some of this stuff. And the economy, I would agree with this article that it is headed for its worst half decade. And I think it's going to continue to worsen as we move through this decade, closer to 2030. I think we're going to see a lot of crazy stuff happening. But this year, I know that the Federal Reserve is planning on cutting interest rates. We'll see if that actually happens. I've heard that they may cut interest rates up to 6 times this year. Not sure if they're going to do that. Not sure if they'll even cut at all. Who knows? I think it's all going to depend on the data that comes out in terms of the economy, and jobs as well. Jobs is a big deal. If we're not producing jobs, then that's going to be a problem. Um, so yeah, I'm gonna keep an eye on all this information in terms of the economy, and if anything comes from this, I will definitely update you guys. But I appreciate you stopping by and watching this video today, and we'll see you all in the next one. Take care. God bless.